Welcome to Evergreen Speedway Weekly News. We are out here in Echo Lake, right outside of Snohomish, and about 15 minutes from Evergreen Speedway at the JBR Racing Stables out here. Longtime Evergreen Speedway racer John Bender and his crew that he's got along here that races. A good stable of cars that range from Hornet cars to super late models, and a lot of fun stuff. We're going to get to know the drivers who race out of the shop and kind of the story behind the shop. So John, we'll start with you. Kind of maybe give those listeners who don't know your name kind of a rundown of your history of Evergreen Speedway and your racing career.
Yeah, I'm John Bender. I've started racing at Evergreen Speedway in the 80s, bombers, demos, went to a late model, then a Northwest Tour car, had a lot of fun, and met a lot of nice people, made a lot of really good friends, and just love Evergreen Speedway.
Well, I'm Nick Beecher. I grew up racing quarter midgets. I started watching my dad, Dan Beecher, run late models there at Evergreen Speedway. I've ran a couple of legend car races, bandoleros, and I crew chief on my dad's car whenever he's out, and just been around racing my whole life, so it's kind of where I've been.
Lance Ograin, started my first season out in 2006. Started racing extreme contact figure eights, school bus figure eights, boat racing, demos, you name it, I did it. And then moved myself up to the Stinger 8 division, and I've been on that since the day I started. Had a season running outlaw figure eights. Been pretty successful, and just excited to be part of this JBR team.
I'm Mike Jensen from Arlington. Kind of started racing back in the racing cars with John, actually, back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, doing demolition derby stuff, and kind of got away from it and got more into motorcycles, off-road racing, flat track, and kind of did that up until 2014. John had an old enduro car, Hornet car, ran an enduro, and I was hooked, and kind of been hooked ever since, and had a really good season last year, and hope to have a good season again this year.
John, let's talk about, you have a very strong history of racing super late models, but you're kind of known as the Hornet shop to come out of. A lot of cars out here. What kind of got you behind all the Hornet racing here?
Well, as everyone knows, in super late model racing, it takes a lot of dedication of people, and I've always had that. Always had a lot of people, good people around me, and I kind of put myself a little bit on the back burner to help the people that help me, just to give back to my friends that have supported me through the years, and just help them out as much as I can, and bring some knowledge into the Hornet division, not just for the JBR guys, but the guys that are upcoming too. I'm really excited about Tyson Lang running one of my cars. I'd like to have 5 or 6 of those kids out there running some good equipment and doing well.
Nick, your family's raced up there for so long. You've been pretty successful lately, and it's a very tough class out there in that Hornet division at Evergreen Speedway. I mean, we're getting 30-plus cars every single week. Why have you been so successful racing out at Evergreen Speedway this year?
Well, over the last couple of years, I haven't always had the right equipment. Just kind of struggled there with my old car. I only ran a handful of races, so then I was helping Mike in 2015, in 2016, and John said, "Hey, if you find a car, we'll build you a good car." So I found a car for $500. Didn't run, so we got it fixed up here at the JBR shop, and went out there the first race with the car, and put myself in a position to do well, and won that first race. So it's just a lot of hard work that these guys put in, and just finding the right cars too.
Lance, you're not so much on the circle racing side. You're a lot more, we see on the figure eight side there. Why do you like the figure eight side more than maybe like the circle track racing side?
I was as a kid going to the racetrack. I would that was my favorite class to watch. Watching Steve Peters and Steve Cox and all those guys go at it every week. And I never thought one day that I'd be able to race with those guys, but I got that chance. And I don't know. It's the adrenaline rush. It's racing against the guys you used to look up to as a kid. It's figure eight racing's progressed so much in the last 12 years since I've been racing, and it's the fun in it is trying to figure out how to make your car go fast and faster with these guys that are progressing to get better, and all these young guns coming out and showing all of us up. You know, we got to get on that same page. So I just love the adrenaline rush, and my favorite thing is being the fast time, starting in the back and working my way to the front. There's nothing more rewarding than doing that, in my opinion. And we've been so successful throughout all the years, and I'm going to keep doing it.
Mike, you might be on what we call the older side of the racers in the Hornet division. There's a lot of young guns out there. What's it like for you to be successful, but you have all these young guns like Nick and Dawson Cox and all those kids coming on and holding those kids off?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of getting a late start in this. I kind of gave the dirt bikes, a break, just because when you fall off those and at speed, it hurts, and it takes longer to recover from that. But I don't know. I mean, I didn't think that last year that I was going to do as good as I did, and running against Dawson, and we ran hard against each other, and we're doing the same this year. I don't know. I mean, I was never a driver. I was never a race car driver. I always helped John, back in the late model days and stuff. I never even thought about driving. And then, they had a little enduro car, and I went out and started driving it. And I mean, kind of wheeled it a little bit. And I don't know if it's part of my motorcycle background that I can put it in there a little bit harder or, a little bit deeper. But I'm still learning. I mean, I'm not the best driver out there by any means, but I'm passionate, and I want to win, and I have fun doing it. And these guys, I mean, they're really fun to race with. And the last race we had, I got second, which for me, because we've had a really hard start this season with this car, and that was huge for me. I mean, it made it feel all worthwhile to go out there and do it.
So you guys have all had, your stories along the way. You've had that memorable win or that special moment in your career, or that funny story along the career. So maybe each one of you guys kind of share that memory that sticks out in your head right now as we're sitting here.
There's a lot of memories of super late model racing and tour racing. A couple that stand out real quick is we used to race heat races in like the 90s. Wrecked my car hard in the heat race. No nose, no airbox, no nothing. Kelly Oberg put it back together. We went out and won the main event with half a car. That really sticks out, and it was on my birthday. And then the other most memorable win would be my first win at Evergreen Speedway in the Northwest Tour car.
Nick?
My most memorable win has probably got to be my first one. It was in a Bandolero car at the now closed Port Angeles Speedway. I got to run that track twice in that Bandolero car, and that was a real cool track. Just that it's not here anymore. It makes it kind of more memorable than what it would have been. And another kind of funny story I think of is kind of how I got tied in with Mike. We ran that same enduro he's been talking about. Mike broke down, and I was in the pits. And John runs over and he says, "Hey, the 31 car at the time is broken down in the middle of turns 3 and 4. Can you get up behind him and push him in?" Because they didn't have a jam car out there. And so I pushed Mike back to the pits kind of before I got to know him and everything. So it's kind of a funny story there.
I'd have to say my most memorable win. It's rough because there's so many, but it's I would have to say back in 2008 racing the Stingray World Championship of the World, or whatever they called it, but we always had a laugh about it. Was bringing a car to the track, didn't think could win, and I got up to first place, and I had my best friend at the time, Sean Peters, right behind me, beating the back door, and another buddy of mine in third place, JJ Edwards, and it ended that way. But what's so memorable about it is that, you know, Sean's passed away now, and you look back, and that was some good times, some good fun. Just that has to be my most memorable. Besides, I don't know, one more would probably be Seth Funden back in 2009. Him and I we had 3 close races, and I mean close, like within 100th of a second. And we battled it out, and I think it was 3 races, and I think I edged him on 2 of them. I think I won 2 out of the 3, but man, that was some fun racing back in the day, Stingrays with Seth Funden.
So, one of my most memorable, it wasn't a win or anything like that, and it wasn't even car racing. It was on motorcycles, and I went over to Odessa and raced the Desert 100 and on a motorcycle, and 1,000 riders starting on a Le Mans start and going out for 100 miles just to do that race and survive it. I mean, I didn't win it by any means, but to be able to do that for 100 miles straight on a dirt bike was it meant a lot to me, because it was one of those deals that I wanted to check off my list of things to do. And the other one was probably my first win in my old white car last year. Just going up on the podium and these guys all being there, it was very special.
Along the way, you can't do what you do without a support team, whether that be sponsors or people just support you along the way. And I know each one of you have those people that have been your sponsors or your families. Let's talk about those each one. So John, with you, who are those people along the way that have been your support system, whether your family? I know you have long-term sponsors out there as well.
Yeah, my wife puts up with all this, so she's number one support. And I've had a lot of sponsors through the years. I've had a lot of help, and this is why I'm doing this for these guys, is giving back to the sport. I want to feed the sport as much as I can. So yeah, I mean, Andy Soul, Superior Soul Welding, Hammer Built Cars does a really good job here. Yeah, basically myself and my family have made this all happen just for our friends.
I gotta thank my dad first for getting me started. Grew up watching him, so it was just in my blood to come out and race. I gotta thank my new sponsor, Roy Robinson Chevrolet, for coming on. They're gonna help me out this year. I got JBR Racing, and Lance Ograin with Hammer Built me a pretty bad car this year, so those guys, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. We've got 2.5 Men Barbecue. They're feeding the crew this year. Killer food too, so no complaints there. And we got Andy Souls sponsoring the whole team here, and Image Auto Body. They painted a couple of these cars for us, and yeah.
I got to give the biggest shout out to my old man, Scott Ograin. He's been my #1 fan, and he barely misses races. He's always been there since day one. He's always supported it, and he's always supported, just the Speedway with Doug and Tracy Hobbs. I just can't do it without him personally, because it makes those wins more memorable for me. But SIR Construction, they've been on board since 2008 or 2006. And they've never left. There's so many people. I mean, I had a buddy of mine, Mike, with Rockstar. He's been with me, and he helped me through some really tough years, making sure that my equipment was fixed. And Steve Peters, I think him and his son Sean were the reason I got into this. Sean really pushed me hard, and Steve showed me how to wreck guys. So I was very successful wrecking people because of Steve and Mike Buse and Josh Beckel. All those guys deserve a big shout out. And I don't know, it's just, I've been so fortunate to be a part of some awesome race teams. JZ Motorsports with, John Zaretsky and his crew. They built me such a rad car. I mean, my first cool race car, which was so memorable. And with the Moriartys, Trenton and Tom, that whole team is just a gas to be around, especially Tom. He's kind of a clown. Just this team here, this is the team that means the most to me right now. They're so passionate about this. John Bender gives me a place to build sweet race cars for other people, including these two, and Chad Robertson, that's not here today. So I'm so fortunate and so happy to be a part of this, and been doing it for 12 years. So
I got to thank my wife Jennifer and my daughters Hannah and Chloe for just being patient and letting me have the time to do this, because I mean, I live in Arlington and I'm down here probably 3-4 nights a week from Arlington. It's a lot of time on the road and whatnot, but I mean, I gotta thank John for giving me a place to come and do this, and all the help that he's done for me and kind of mentored me into what I can do. And my sponsorships, of course, JBR, Pro Alliance Services, Superior Soul Welding, 2.5 Men Barbecue, JT Automotive, Central Welding, and just everybody in this shop, Hammer Built Fabrication. Lance built the whole cage out in this car, and it's nice. Does very nice work. But and then always being there to help with the car and have it ready for the Saturday race. So
We can't forget PCP Emporium.
oh yeah,
Oh,
PCP.
PCP.
Yep.
So Nick and Lance and Mike, you guys are kind of racing throughout the year. John, you're working on a lot of cars. Will we see you back behind the wheel of a race car this year?
Boy, it's hard to say. Pretty devoted into the Hornet cars this year. There's maybe a chance, but time will tell.
And I'm going to propose one more question to you. It's a question I proposed to other late model drivers this last weekend at Evergreen Speedway. Kind of a fun question. And you've raced against a lot of guys in the Northwest. And a question I kind of want to know on your side. With one lap to go in a race, who do you not want to see on your back bumper? Or who did you not want to see back in the day on your back bumper?
John Zaretsky. Yeah, him and I have had many heated battles. And I'm sure he wouldn't want me on his either, but yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you guys for having us out here tonight, and the amazing scenery. I think our first outdoor shoot we've done here on Evergreen Speedway Weekly News with our driver recap. And good luck to you guys this year, and have fun. And thanks for having us out here. And a good luck season for these guys. If you're looking to get into Hornet racing, I think this is a great stable to come talk to. John Bender and Mike and these guys, come see them in the pits after the races. If you have a kid, I know that they have some more cars over here that are looking to get built pretty soon, hopefully, and we'll look to see them out here as well, hopefully soon. So thank you for joining us on Evergreen Speedway Weekly News. This is Jeremy Anders signing off.